I'm Geeta Kumari. I'm an English teacher. Today, I'm going to take a poem from the literature text Hornbill of Class 11, a photograph by Shirley Tolson. A photograph by Shirley Tolson, English, Class 11, Hornbill, NCERT text, CBSE. Now, before starting the poem, we have to know something about the author. Shirley Tolson was born in Thames, England, and had a great passion for writing and was influenced by her father, who was a writer. She secured a BA Literature from Brockenhurst College in London in the year 1953. Shortly after that, she took writing as a career, and she was a poet, teacher, educational journalist, and editor. She died in 2018. Now, giving a brief introduction to the poem, a photograph. This poem is divided into three stages, and the first stage is the photograph shows the poet's mother standing at the beach enjoying a holiday with her two cousins. At that time, she is 12 years old, and in the second stage, that takes us 20 or 30 years later. The mother would laugh at the way she and her cousin, Betty and Dolly, were dressed for the occasion. In the third stage, the poet remembers her mother with a heavy heart. The photograph revives the nostalgic feeling in the poet. Now, starting with the first stanza, the cardboard shows me how it was when the two girls' cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hand, and she, the big girl, some 12 years or so. Now, here the author is saying that the cardboard showed me how it was. Now, here the cardboard is referred to an old photograph. When the two girls' cousins went paddling. So, here the author is saying that when the two girls were holding the hands of the poet's mother and they had gone for a sea bath. Each one holding one of my mother's hand, and she, the big girl, some 12 years or so. Now, she is also saying that out of these three, her mother was the biggest or the eldest girl. Perhaps she was near about 12 years of age. Now, the author further says that all three stood still to smile through their hair at the uncle with the camera, a sweet face, my mother's that was before I was born, and the sea, which appeared to have changed less, washed their terribly transient feet. Now, the author says that all of them were standing at the beach at that time and they stood silently smiling through their hair and watching at their uncle who was standing there with a camera. He was taking a photograph at that time, which was a memorable photograph, and they all were posing a sweet face to make the snap beautiful. My mother's that was before I was born. So here that time refers to the time when the poet was not even born. At that time, her mother's face was sweet as well as attractive. Sweet face, it is written, so it shows that her mother's face was attractive. Her mother was standing at the beach, and she is also saying that the author is saying that the sea has not changed much, but the mortal face of the mother seems to have changed a lot with the passage of time. The poet's mother and the two cousins stood there, and the sea was washing their mortal feet. So, here, wash their terrible transient feet means transient here refers to momentary or mortal. Now, here in this particular stanza, the cardboard in the poem refers to a photograph, a piece of paper, a memory, as a poet's mother is dead and gone now. and it signifies the transience of life, and what remains is an insignificant piece of paper. The poet also notices here the mother's sweet face of a time before she was born, and her face had changed much, unlike the sea, which had remained unchanged. The sea washed their unbearably short lived feet. Now, moving to the second stanza. Some 20-30 years later, she did laugh at the snapshot. See Betty and Dolly, she did say, and look how they dressed us from for the beach. Now, the author is saying that 20 or 30 years have passed since that photograph has been taken. Now, whenever the mother looked at the photograph, she would laugh. She would point out Dolly and Betty how they were dressed up by their parents for the sea holiday. The sea holiday was her past, mine is her laughter, both ray with the labored ease of loss. Now, here the author says that sea holiday had become a thing of the past for the mother, and that sweet laughter of the mother, which the photograph had captured, had become the poet's own past. So, both of them suffered from a sense of loss. Here, ironically, both of them were laboring to ease the loss. Labored here means achieved after a lot of hard work, and Ray here means disappointed with the ironical situation. Here, the snapshot means a photo which has been taken, and Betty and Dolly are the girl cousins of the mother. Now, here in the stanza, it is clear that the mother is now dead, and the poet recalls how 20 or 30 years later her mother would look at the photograph and recall with amusement. As young girls, they had been dressed for the beach, and she had been out for a holiday to the beach years back and felt nostalgic about it, and just as the poet felt when she relieved the memory of her mother. She recalls with pain the memories of her mother's laughter. Now, according to this stanza, the poet's mother, her childhood is a thing of a past over here, and to the poet, her mother's laughter was a thing of the past. Now, moving to the last stanza. Now she is been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived. And of this circumstances, there is nothing to say at all. It's silence, silence. Now, circumstances over here is situation or condition. Now, the poet says that her mother has been dead for years. She has been dead nearly as many years as she had lived, and she, the poet, has nothing to say about the circumstances of her death or about the situation captured in the photo or snap. Silence is only there, and it brings out deeper silence and makes things mysterious. Now, further in the stanza, she finds it difficult to come to term with her mother's death, and she remembers her mother who died a long time ago, and she has now lived without her for almost half of her life, and this fact overwhelms her silence. Here in the last line, it's silence, silence. It means that the stillness of the photograph and the overwhelming sense of her mother's loss mute the poet. Now, coming to know something about the poetic device which are used in this particular poem. Now, the poetic device used in the first stanza. First device is the personification. Personification here is being used in the first line, the cardboard show. She gives the cardboard the ability to show. So personification means it provides a human quality in the poem. It is a non-living thing over here, the cardboard, and it has been given some human quality. Now, another poetic device used over here is alliteration. It is the repetition of the consonant sound at the beginning of the two or more consecutive words. Like you can see over here, stood still and smile. Both, all the three have SS in the starting. And next is my mother. Two words are being repeated, MM, my and mother. Next is terribly transient. So T is being repeated over here, terribly and transient. Now the third poetic device is transferred epithet in the line washed their terribly transient feet. You can see over here, washed their terribly transient feet. So here the epithet is usually an adjective or phrase expressing quality which is the characteristics of a person or a thing. The poet uses this device in this line, words like transient used to describe that life is temporary, as it is always as it always move forward. Instead of using the word transient for life, she has used the word transient for feet. Now, in the second stanza, the figure of speech oxymoron is used on the line both ray in the labored ease of loss. You can see over here both ray with the labored ease of loss. So here the labored ease is an example of oxymoron. It means having two opposite words coming together to create a dramatic effect. For example, like open secret. Here labored means done with great effort and ease means comfort. Both are different. Now coming to the last stanza, here alliteration is used like silence, silence. You can see over here two words are repeated over here, silence, silence. And then personification is also used. The word silence has the ability to stop the poetess from speaking. The situation has been given a human quality for silence. So here silence is also used as a what personification. I hope I was able to make you understand the poem. Thank you. Thank you all.